Welcome back to Baha'i on Air, our devotional focus here on the Deep Dive.
Great to be diving in again.
Today we're setting out on, a deep dive into a virtue that might surprise you in its complexity and, its profundity. The virtue of beauty.
Beauty. It's a word we use all the time.
Exactly. And when we think of beauty, we often picture things we see right. A stunning landscape, maybe a work of art, or a lovely person.
Sure, the visual, the aesthetic.
But the Baha'i writings
Yeah.
invite us to look much, much deeper. We've got a collection of passages here today from Bahá'u'lláh and Abdu'l-Bahá that are going to, I think, completely reshape our understanding of this concept.
That's exactly right. Our mission today in this deep dive is really to navigate these powerful words together.
Yeah.
We want to, extract the most important nuggets of knowledge these texts offer about the true nature of beauty.
Not just the surface stuff.
Not at all. We're talking about this divine source, how it's intricately linked to our own being, and the spiritual pathways that allow us to perceive it, maybe even cultivate it.
Right. And ultimately, how understanding it can genuinely enrich our lives, guiding us towards what truly matters.
Exactly. How it makes a difference.
It feels like going beneath the surface of, say, a sparkling ocean. The surface is beautiful, no doubt. But the real wonder, the real depth, that's found far below, isn't it?
That's a great analogy.
So we're going to plunge into these sacred texts to try and uncover layers of meaning about beauty that can hopefully transform our perspective.
So let's approach this with curiosity, an open heart, maybe ready for some aha moments.
I'm ready. Where do we start?
Well, the writings begin by drawing a very sharp contrast. They really set the stage by distinguishing between two fundamentally different kinds of beauty.
Okay.
This first passage immediately challenges our conventional, often, let's face it, superficial understanding. It's from Abdu'l-Bahá, found in selections from the writings of Abdu'l-Bahá.
Okay, let's listen closely to these words and really, really ponder them.
Right. He writes, "Mortal charm shall fade away, roses shall give way to thorns, and beauty and youth shall live their day and be no more."
Oof. Straight to the point.
Very direct.
Yeah.
Then the contrast. "But that which eternally endureth is the beauty of the true one, for its splendor perisheth not, and its glory lasteth forever. Its charm is all-powerful, and its attraction infinite."
Wow.
And it finishes, "Well, is it then with that countenance that reflecteth the splendor of the light of the beloved one?"
That passage just hits you right away with that stark contrast, doesn't it?
It really does.
It talks about mortal charm, roses, beauty, and youth. These are things we all recognize as beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the physical world, human beauty, the beauty of nature.
Yes, absolutely. And the language used to describe them is so definitive. They shall fade away, give way to thorns, live their day, and be no more.
It's not a maybe.
Not at all. It's presented as a certainty. It's highlighting the fundamental reality of the material world. Everything in it is subject to change, decay, and eventual disappearance.
Like that beautiful rose. Breathtaking,
But its bloom is temporary. And youth, physical beauty, precious, yes, but time inevitably diminishes them. This part of the passage is a potent reminder of the impermanence that defines so much of what we call beauty around us.
And it's not just that they fade. The rose gives way to thorns. That detail feels significant. There's almost a sharpness, a difficulty left behind.
That's a fascinating point. The thorns might represent, the emptiness, the disillusionment, maybe even the pain that can result from attaching ourselves too strongly to things that are inherently transient.
Right. If our whole sense of worth or beauty is tied up in that.
Then we're left with the thorns when they inevitably disappear. It's a kind of spiritual dead end.
And the contrast couldn't be clearer. Opposite this transient beauty is the beauty of the true one. This is presented as the ultimate reality of beauty.
Absolutely. And look at the description of this divine beauty. It's just overflowing with terms of permanence and power. It eternally endureth. Its splendor perisheth not. Its glory lasteth forever.
Unlike physical beauty, which has an expiration date.
Exactly. The beauty of the true one is limitless, everlasting. It's the source, really, from which all other lesser beauties derive, but it's not subject to their constraints.
And the power described, its charm is all-powerful and its attraction infinite. That's more than just looking nice.
Oh, much more. It suggests a beauty that isn't just passively pleasant, but one that possesses an inherent irresistible force, a force that draws the soul towards it.
A transformative attraction.
Yes, one that can pull us out of our limited focus on the material world and towards something boundless and eternal. This is the magnetic force of the divine itself, experienced as ultimate beauty.
So the passage really forces you to ask yourself, Where are you directing your attention, your energy, in this pursuit of beauty?
Right. Are we primarily chasing the things that will inevitably fade and maybe leave us with thorns?
Or are we seeking connection with that which eternally endures?
Exactly. It's a fundamental reorientation of our values, isn't it? If we really grasp that true, lasting beauty is divine and eternal, it naturally shifts our priorities away from the superficial, towards the spiritual.
And then comes that final, really powerful sentence. Well, is it then with that countenance that reflecteth the splendor of the light of the Beloved One? This brings the divine back to the human, but in a transformed way.
This is the bridge. It takes this concept of eternal divine beauty and connects it right back to human existence. A countenance, yes, it can mean a face, but here it feels much deeper.
Like your expression, your character, your whole being.
I think so. The passage is saying that true blessedness, true beauty in a person comes not from their physical features, which will fade,
Right.
but from how well they reflect the divine light, the splendor of the light of the Beloved One.
So the beauty we should admire and maybe try to cultivate in people, isn't their fading mortal charm, but the light of the eternal shining through them?
Precisely. It's that spiritual radiance that comes from closeness to God, from embodying divine qualities and virtues.
Like kindness, truthfulness, generosity.
Exactly. Those are reflections of the Beloved One's light. And those are the things that constitute true, enduring human beauty, according to this passage.
It means looking at people, and maybe ourselves, with new eyes. Seeing beyond the physical to the potential for that divine reflection.
It really does.
What kinds of mortal charm do you think we, in modern society tend to focus on most intently? It seems everywhere.
Oh, it's absolutely everywhere. The relentless focus on physical appearance in media, for one.
Definitely.
The emphasis on acquiring wealth and possessions as markers of success, desirability.
Keeping up with the Joneses?
Yeah, that sort of thing. Chasing fleeting fame or trends. These are all forms of mortal charm that the passage warns us are temporary.
And we invest so much energy in them.
So much energy, so much emotion, only to find they don't provide lasting happiness or fulfillment because they lack that quality of eternal endurance. They just can't deliver.
Okay, so there's this eternal, infinite divine beauty, the true one. And a human countenance is blessed when it reflects that beauty. But how is that even possible? How is this divine beauty connected to us in the first place?
That's the crucial next step. And the next passage gives us a profound, really beautiful answer. It asserts that the connection is inherent, built in from the start.
Okay.
This excerpt is from Bahá'u'lláh in the Hidden Words. It's one of the Arabic ones, number 3. And it's really a foundational statement about human creation and our relationship with the divine.
Let's read these powerful words. They're spoken from the perspective of the divine, right?
Yes. It reads, O Son of Man, veiled in my immemorial being and in the ancient eternity of my essence, I knew my love for thee. Therefore I created thee, have engraved on thee mine image, and revealed to thee my beauty.
Engraved on thee mine image, revealed to thee my beauty. Wow. Those phrases are just breathtaking.
They really are.
They don't say we might achieve God's image or could acquire divine beauty if we work hard enough. They say it's already been done. Engraved, revealed. Past tense.
That's the radical core of this passage. It asserts that humanity is not created empty or lacking. We are created with the divine image and beauty inherent within us from the very moment of our existence.
So this beauty isn't something we have to strive endlessly to build or earn.
No, it's presented as a gift already given, present at the deepest level of our being.
And it explicitly links this act of creation, this revealing of beauty, to God's fundamental nature, which is love. I knew my love for thee, therefore I created thee.
Yes. Creation itself is presented as an act of divine love, and in that act, God reveals his beauty, specifically within humanity.
It elevates the whole concept of human nature, doesn't it? We aren't just physical beings.
Not at all. We are spiritual beings created with an inherent capacity for and reflection of the divine. And this beauty isn't physical appearance. We need to keep reminding ourselves of that.
Right. It's about the potential for divine attributes.
Exactly. Love, justice, mercy, knowledge, compassion. These spiritual qualities are the image and beauty engraved upon our souls.
This completely flips our common understanding of beauty then. Instead of thinking of it as something external we put on or acquire.
Like makeup or clothes or status.
Yeah. This says it's something internal, fundamental, part of our created reality.
Precisely. So the search for beauty shifts, doesn't it? It moves from trying to get something from the outside to uncovering and expressing what is already within.
It challenges the idea that our worth or beauty depends on external validation or fitting in with temporary standards.
It does. Our true beauty, according to this, is divinely bestowed and intrinsic.
So if God's beauty is revealed in us, woven into the very fabric of our creation, how does that understanding change how you view yourself? Does it maybe offer a foundation for genuine self-worth?
Oh, absolutely. I think it has to. If you truly internalize this, that your deepest reality is one of divinely instilled nobility and beauty, it provides an unshakable foundation for self-acceptance and dignity.
So your worth isn't contingent on achievements, looks, status, what others think.
None of that. Your inherent value and beauty are a gift from God, present regardless of your circumstances or your flaws.
And if this divine image and beauty are inherent to every human being,
Then it becomes a powerful foundation for unity and love. If everyone without exception carries this divine spark, this engraved beauty, then every single person possesses profound inherent worth and dignity.
it compels you to look beyond the surface differences.
Completely. Race, nationality, social class, individual flaws, all the things that divide us, you're called to look past them and recognize the sacred reality within each soul. It's a call to honor and love the divine image in all of humanity.
That leads us perfectly into the next question then. If divine beauty is within us, inherent in our creation is this nobility and richness, how does that manifest? How do we live from that place? How do we cultivate or express this inherent worth that's already there?
Right. And this next passage from Bahá'u'lláh speaks directly to this inherent reality, but it also poses some quite challenging questions about the choices we make in relation to it.
Okay.
It's from gleanings from the writings of Bahá'u'lláh, and it's framed, again, as a divine address to humanity.
Let's hear these impactful words.
Okay. It says, "O Son of Man, my majesty is my gift to thee, and my grandeur the token of my mercy unto thee. I have created thee rich. Why dost thou bring thyself down to poverty? Noble I made thee. Wherewith dost thou abase thyself? Out of the essence of knowledge I gave thee being. Why seekest thou enlightenment from anyone besides me?"
This really reinforces that sense of our original state. My majesty is my gift, my grandeur the token of my mercy. These incredible divine qualities are given to us as gifts.
Yes.
And again, I have created thee rich, noble I made thee.
These terms, majesty, grandeur, rich, noble, they're like synonyms for the inherent spiritual beauty and worth that God has bestowed upon us. This passage emphasizes again, this state isn't something we have to achieve. It's our starting point, our fundamental reality as created beings. This is the spiritual wealth and nobility of our divinely created selves.
But then come these direct, almost piercing questions. Why dost thou bring thyself down to poverty? Wherewith dost thou abase thyself? If we were created rich and noble, why do we consistently act in ways that contradict that reality?
These questions highlight the fundamental paradox of human existence, don't they? We're created with immense spiritual potential and inherent dignity, yet we often choose paths that lead to spiritual emptiness, poverty, and degradation, abasement.
And the passage implies these states are self-imposed. We bring ourselves down.
Exactly. It's not something done to us necessarily, but a choice we make.
So what do you think poverty and abasement are referring to here? If we were created rich and noble, it can't just be about money or social status.
No, definitely not in this context. Spiritual poverty could mean focusing solely on material gain, maybe becoming consumed by greed or attachment to transient things.
Neglecting the soul.
Right, neglecting the nourishment of the soul, feeling spiritually empty despite having, external success.
And spiritual abasement.
That could involve engaging in immoral behavior, maybe cultivating negative character traits like jealousy or malice, seeking validation in demeaning ways, or allowing fear and insecurity to define us instead of our inherent nobility.
These are actions and states of being that dim the light of our created beauty.
They are. They're the opposite of our true, rich, and noble nature.
And that last question, out of the essence of knowledge I gave thee being, why seekest thou enlightenment from anyone besides me? It links our origin to the essence of knowledge and challenges where we seek truth.
It reinforces that our very reality is derived from God, the source of all knowledge and reality. So to seek ultimate truth, understanding, enlightenment only from limited human sources, or to trust only our own limited intellect,
is turning away from the source.
It's turning away from the boundless source of knowledge from which we originated. It's another way we choose spiritual limitation over our inherent connection to divine wisdom. And divine wisdom itself is an aspect of divine beauty, the beauty of perfect knowledge and truth.
This passage is a powerful wake-up call, really. It tells us who we truly are, rich, noble, created from the essence of knowledge, and then challenges us on why we choose to live in contradiction to that truth.
Dimming the reflection of our inherent beauty through spiritual poverty and abasement.
What might be common examples today of bringing ourselves down to poverty or abasing ourselves?
Oh, I think it could be anything from mindlessly scrolling through social media, constantly seeking external validation, allowing consumerism to dictate our sense of worth, engaging in destructive gossip or criticism, succumbing to addiction, or even just letting fear of failure prevent us from pursuing our higher purpose.
Right, choosing temporary, shallow pursuits over nurturing the deep, inherent richness of our soul. That inherent nobility and richness described there, it's also presented in the writings as an inner radiance, isn't it? A light within us that, when cultivated, leads to a profound inner strength.
Absolutely. The next passage from Baha'u'lláh, again in Gleanings, gives us direct counsel on cultivating this inner state, and it's an incredible result.
This one is quite concise, but very powerful.
It is. It reads, "O son of spirit, my first counsel is this. Possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that thine may be a sovereignty ancient, imperishable, and everlasting."
Possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart. He calls this my first counsel. That sounds like the absolute essential starting point for any spiritual life.
It's presented as the foundation, isn't it? A pure, kindly, and radiant heart describes the ideal inner state.
Let's break that down. Pure.
Pure implies freedom from negative attachments, from prejudice, impure motives. Cleansed.
Okay. Kindly.
That seems straightforward. Compassion, love, benevolence towards others, active goodwill.
And radiant. How does having a pure and kindly heart make it radiant? What does that look like?
Well, when the heart is free from inner darkness like anger, hatred, selfishness, and filled with light, love, joy, peace, that inner state becomes visible. Not physically glowing, but it manifests as a spiritual presence, a warmth, maybe a clarity in one's eyes, a positive energy that affects those around you. This radiance isn't about perfect physical features. It's the outward shine of the divine light within, unobstructed by inner impurities.
It's the beauty of a soul aligned with its noble origin.
Exactly. It's inner moral and spiritual beauty, the beauty of virtuous character shining forth.
And this inner state, this radiant heart, leads to a sovereignty ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. That's an incredible promise. What kind of sovereignty is this?
It's clearly not worldly power or political rule. This is spiritual sovereignty.
Meaning
a heart that is pure, kindly, and radiant is not controlled by external circumstances or fleeting emotions or the dictates of the ego.
Yeah.
It possesses inner freedom, resilience, mastery.
So it's not being buffeted around by life.
Precisely. This inner dominion is ancient because it's rooted in our primal connection to the divine. It's imperishable and everlasting because it's anchored in the eternal, unlike temporary worldly power. It's the state of being truly free and spiritually powerful, aligned with the enduring nature of God's beauty.
So cultivating this inner moral and spiritual beauty is the path to genuine, lasting power and freedom, a spiritual sovereignty that can withstand any external test. It's not about changing the world outside first,
but changing the world within. That's the key.
How can we actively work on cultivating a pure, kindly, and radiant heart in our daily lives? It sounds lovely, but how do you do it?
It involves a conscious commitment, I think, to developing virtues. It's practicing forgiveness even when it's hard, actively seeking opportunities to be kind and generous.
Guarding our thoughts.
Yes, guarding our thoughts against negativity or judgment, examining our motives honestly, praying for help to purify our intentions. It's like tending a garden.
The garden of the heart.
Exactly. Removing the weeds of negative traits and nurturing the beautiful flowers of virtue. It's a daily discipline.
Building on this idea of an inner light and radiance as our true source of beauty and strength, another passage from Baha'u'lláh in the Hidden Words uses a beautiful and direct metaphor.
Yes, this one really describes our relationship with that inner source. It's Arabic number 11. It speaks to the intimate connection between us and the divine source of our radiance.
Let's read it.
It says, O Son of Being, thou art my lamp and my light is in thee. Get thou from it thy radiance and seek none other than me. For I have created thee rich and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee.
Thou art my lamp and my light is in thee. That is such a vivid personal image. We are the vessel, the lamp. And the light isn't our own. It's God's light residing within us.
It beautifully illustrates our potential. We are capable of shining, of radiating spiritual beauty, but the source of that radiance is divine. The light isn't something we generate independently. It's God's presence, His essence, His favor dwelling within us.
This inner divine light is the true source of our spiritual radiance or beauty.
Yes, that's the core idea.
And the instruction is so direct. Get thou from it thy radiance, and seek none other than me.
This is crucial. It explicitly states where our spiritual energy, our true brilliance, comes from directly from that inner divine light. And He gives a clear direction. Don't seek your light, your validation, your sense of worth, your spiritual power from anywhere else.
Not from other people, possessions, achievements.
No. Don't seek it from those fleeting external sources. Seek it only from God, from that connection within.
It reinforces that idea we just talked about, not bringing ourselves down to poverty or abasement by seeking external things.
Exactly.
It's saying the source of infinite richness and radiance is already within you, connected to the divine.
Precisely. It circles back to the previous points about being created rich and receiving bountiful favor. That phrase, "For I have created thee rich and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee." It's not just a statement, it's the reason why we should seek radiance only from Him.
Because the capacity is already there.
Our inherent spiritual wealth, our capacity to be radiant, comes from this divine gift, this favor already bestowed.
So the challenge is to stop looking outside ourselves for validation, for happiness, for our sense of beauty, and instead turn inward to draw from that inexhaustible source of light within. What does it practically mean, though, to get thy radiance from this light within? How does that work in daily life?
I think it means centering our lives around our spiritual connection. It's things like prayer, meditation, reading, and reflecting on sacred writings.
The practices.
Yes, seeking guidance from God in our decisions. Consciously choosing to prioritize our spiritual development over external pursuits. It's about recognizing that our deepest needs for love, for security, for meaning can ultimately only be met by connecting with the divine source within us.
And allowing that connection to be the foundation.
The foundation of our being and the wellspring of our actions. It's learning to trust that the light is already there and just needs to be uncovered and allowed to shine.
Okay, so we've established that divine beauty is the eternal source, that this beauty is inherent within us, our true nature being one of nobility, richness, light. We've seen that this light needs to be drawn from within, but how do we access and understand this divine beauty, both within ourselves and in creation, more deeply?
Good question. Several passages point to the power of the mind, the intellect, and the spirit as key pathways.
Yeah, the role of the mind.
Yes, the Baha'i writings place immense value on the intellect and the pursuit of knowledge as essential components of spiritual growth and understanding. We actually have two identical passages here, excerpts 3 and 11 in our notes.
Interesting that it's repeated.
Yes, both are from Abdu'l-Bahá in Paris Talks, from a talk back in October 1911. The repetition really emphasizes its significance.
Okay, let's read it and think about its implications.
Right. It says, "The light of the intellect is the light of God. It is the divine gift, the power by which man discovers the realities of things, by which he gains knowledge and understanding, and by which he attains to the knowledge of God."
The light of the intellect is the light of God. That's a really profound statement. It doesn't just say intellect is useful. It elevates it to a sacred status, a divine gift.
It fundamentally redefines what intellectual activity is, doesn't it? It's not merely a biological function of the brain.
Which is how we usually think of it.
Right. But here it's presented as a spiritual endowment, a divine light infused into human consciousness. By calling it the light of God, it links our capacity for reason and understanding directly to the divine source of all light and reality.
So that imbues the whole pursuit of knowledge with spiritual beauty and purpose.
Exactly.
And what is the purpose of this divine gift? The passage says it's the power by which man discovers the realities of things.
This highlights the intellect's role in seeking truth about the universe and existence. Using our minds to investigate, analyze, understand the laws and principles that govern reality, whether it's in science, philosophy, any field of human inquiry is presented here as a sacred process.
So searching for truth is searching for aspects of divine wisdom,
which are manifestations of divine beauty. The search for the underlying realities is inherently beautiful, and the process of discovery itself holds a certain beauty. Think of the elegance of a scientific law, the coherence of a philosophical system, the moment of unveiling a hidden truth.
And this process leads to gaining knowledge and understanding.
Yes, that's the fruit, of this discovery. And knowledge isn't just collecting facts, it's interconnected understanding. As we gain knowledge, our mental landscape expands, we see connections we didn't see before, we appreciate complexity and order.
There's a beauty in that expansion of understanding.
A deep satisfaction and spiritual beauty in grasping a difficult concept or seeing the interconnectedness of things. Clarity itself is beautiful.
And it culminates in the highest function mentioned, by which he attains to the knowledge of God.
This is presented as the ultimate goal for the intellect. Now, knowing God fully is beyond human capacity. We understand that. But the intellect is the crucial instrument given to us to strive towards that knowledge. Through understanding the universe, understanding ourselves, reflecting on divine revelation, we use the light of our intellect to draw closer to comprehending the nature of God, the ultimate source of truth and beauty.
So since God is the true one, whose beauty is eternal,
using the intellect to attain his knowledge is a direct pathway to perceiving and connecting with that ultimate beauty.
so using our intellect, pursuing knowledge, seeking to understand the world and ourselves, these aren't just secular activities. They're presented as spiritual acts, pathways to perceiving deeper beauty and reality.
That's right.
How can we consciously use our intellect, this light of God, to perceive beauty and reality more deeply in our daily lives?
I think it means cultivating a habit of mindful observation and reflection instead of just passively consuming information.
Which is easy to do.
Very easy. It's about engaging with it critically, thoughtfully, asking why, asking how, seeking to understand the underlying principles behind phenomena, whether in nature or human behavior or spiritual teachings.
Approaching learning with reverence.
Yes, recognizing that every new piece of knowledge, every deeper understanding, is a glimpse of the divine light manifesting in reality. Seeing the beauty not just in the result, but in the disciplined process of seeking knowledge itself.
Expanding on this role of the mind, other writings highlight learning and insight not just as personal pursuits, but as fundamental pillars supporting faith itself.
Yes, this next passage from Abdu'l-Bahá, and selections from the writings of Abdu'l-Bahá, makes a very strong statement about what constitutes a robust, unshakable faith.
Okay, let's read it.
He says, "There are certain pillars which have been established as the unshakable supports of the faith of God. The mightiest of these is learning and the use of the mind, the expansion of consciousness, and insight into the realities of the universe and the hidden mysteries of Almighty God."
Unshakable supports of the faith of God. That's incredibly strong language. Faith isn't presented as something fragile or flimsy.
No, it's built on solid foundations. And notice, the mightiest of these is learning and the use of the mind.
The mightiest pillar.
Yes. This is a powerful affirmation that intellectual engagement and spiritual understanding are not opposed to faith. They are, its very scaffolding, its strongest supports.
So learning and the use of the mind, the expansion of consciousness, gaining insight into the realities and hidden mysteries. These are fundamental requirements for a faith that can withstand challenges.
That's how it's presented. It counters any idea that faith requires intellectual surrender. Instead, it demands intellectual rigor and spiritual depth.
And how does this relate back to our theme of beauty?
Well, understanding the realities of the universe and the hidden mysteries of Almighty God, through this process of learning and gaining insight, it reveals the immense scale, complexity, order, and yes, the beauty of creation, both the seen and the unseen.
So as our consciousness expands,
we become more capable of perceiving and appreciating this profound divine beauty. The beauty of faith, then, is not just in devotion or feeling, but in the enlightened understanding of reality it brings.
a faith based on reason and insight is inherently more beautiful.
Arguably, yes, because it's clear, coherent, and aligns with the truth of existence. It's not blind faith.
So faith isn't a leap in the dark. It's a journey illuminated by the light of learning and reason, leading to a deeper appreciation of spiritual beauty. How does approaching faith this way, through learning and using the mind, deepen our appreciation compared to maybe a more traditional, less intellectual approach?
When faith is informed by knowledge, it moves beyond, say, just dogma or sentimentality to a profound conviction, intellectual and spiritual. You see the beauty and the logic of the spiritual principles, the elegance of the divine design in creation, the coherence between, say, science and religion when properly understood. This intellectual appreciation adds a layer of depth to our experience of beauty. We see it not just with the heart, but with a mind illuminated by divine light. It's a more comprehensive and I think more beautiful form of faith.
Okay, so intellect and knowledge are vital tools, foundational pillars. But the path also involves a different kind of learning, doesn't it? A spiritual education focused on the inner life.
Yes, exactly. This next passage from Abdu'l-Bahá, again from Selections, calls us to enroll in a different kind of school, one focused on spiritual realities.
It reads,
O thou true friend, read in the school of God the lessons of the Spirit, and learn from love's teacher the innermost truths. Seek out the secrets of heaven, and tell of the overflowing grace and favor of God.
read in the school of God the lessons of the Spirit. That invokes the image of a divine academy with a curriculum for the soul.
It's a beautiful metaphor for dedicating ourselves to spiritual learning. The school of God isn't a physical place, obviously. It's a state of being, a conscious orientation towards seeking spiritual knowledge. The lessons are about the nature of the spirit, our spiritual reality, the principles governing the spiritual world. It calls us to go beyond just intellectual understanding to a deeper spiritual comprehension.
And the teacher. Learn from love's teacher the innermost truths.
This points to the source of this spiritual knowledge. While it could certainly refer to the messengers of God, ultimately the deepest spiritual truths are emanations of divine love itself. God is love, as the writings say. So learning from love's teacher means learning about the beautiful principles of unity, compassion, forgiveness qualities inherent in the divine nature. It's a spiritual education guided by the very essence of God's being, which is beauty and love intertwined.
And the instruction to seek out the secrets of heaven? That sounds adventurous.
It's an active quest. These secrets are the hidden realities of the spiritual realms, the mysteries of the soul's journey, the deeper dimensions of God's plan. They're veiled from our ordinary perception, but we are encouraged to actively seek them.
How do we do that?
Through contemplation, prayer, meditation, looking beyond the material surface of life. The act of seeking these beautiful hidden truths is itself part of the path to experiencing a deeper spiritual beauty.
And finally, and tell of the overflowing grace and favor of God.
This feels like the natural outcome of this spiritual learning and seeking. When we glimpse these innermost truths and secrets, when we feel the presence of divine love, we become aware of the immense unmerited grace and favor that God pours upon creation.
Recognizing this bounty, this generosity.
It is an experience of profound beauty, the beauty of divine love and generosity. And we are called to share this, to tell of this grace, making the recognition and expression of this beauty an active part of our lives.
So this passage calls us to commit to a lifelong spiritual education, guided by love, focused on inner truths, involving an active seeking of divine mysteries, all leading to a deeper appreciation of God's beautiful grace. How do we practically enroll in the school of God and learn these lessons of the Spirit amidst the demands of modern life? It sounds difficult.
It requires intentionality. It really does. It means setting aside time for spiritual practices, even if it's just a few minutes each day, prayer, meditation, reading sacred texts with a reflective, open heart.
Looking at a priority.
Yes. It also means seeking out conversations with others who are on the same spiritual quest, sharing insights, supporting each other, and trying to see the spiritual lessons hidden within the challenges and joys of our daily experiences. It's about consciously orienting our lives towards this higher form of learning, recognizing it's just as, if not more, important than any material pursuit.
We've seen how divine beauty is the source, how it's inherent within us, and how intellect and spiritual learning help us perceive it. But beauty isn't just about our individual connection to the divine or intellectual understanding, is it?
Not at all. The writings also emphasize that profound beauty is found in our relationships and collective endeavors, particularly in the context of divine love and community.
Ah, the social dimension.
Indeed. The spiritual journey is not meant to be undertaken in isolation. Our interactions with others and our collective spiritual life are vital arenas for experiencing and manifesting beauty. This next passage from Bahá'u'lláh, in the 7 Valleys and the 4 Valleys, specifically from the Valley of Love, offers a glimpse into the intense, often paradoxical experience of love for the divine.
It's a short one, but very famous and somewhat mysterious.
It reads, "Love is a veil betwixt the lover and the beloved. More than this I am not permitted to tell. The pen groaneth and the ink sheddeth tears."
Love is a veil betwixt the lover and the beloved. That line always makes me pause. How can the very thing that brings you closest to the beloved also be a veil? Seems contradictory.
It does, doesn't it? That's the central mystery the passage points to. A veil can obscure, yes, But think about it, it can also make something more sacred, more desirable, more intensely perceived, precisely because it's not fully revealed.
Okay.
In the context of experiencing the infinite beauty of the beloved, God, love is the state that draws the soul into intense proximity. Perhaps the veil isn't about hiding the beauty, but about the intensity of the experience itself.
Like the full brightness would be too much.
Perhaps. The full unveiled effulgence of divine beauty might be too overwhelming for the limited human capacity to bear all at once. Love, in its transformative power, allows us glimpses, impressions, an overwhelming sense of the beloved's presence and beauty, but maybe not the full comprehensible reality. It's a state of intense, beautiful perception that is distinct from rational understanding.
And the description of the intensity of that state, the pen groaneth and the ink sheddeth tears, what does that convey about the experience of this love and the beauty perceived through it?
It conveys that this state is just beyond ordinary language and capacity to express. The tools of communication themselves, the pen, the ink, are overwhelmed by the depth and power of the emotion and the spiritual reality being glimpsed.
Like words fail.
Exactly. It's an experience so beautiful, so profound, perhaps even so overwhelming or painful in its intensity, the groaneth and sheddeth tears, that it breaks the capacity for simple description. It tells us that experiencing divine beauty through intense love is a deeply moving, transformative state that transcends intellect and language. It's a form of beautiful experience hinted at through these evocative, almost agonizing metaphors.
So love, particularly intense spiritual love for the divine, is a powerful pathway to experiencing a profound, overwhelming beauty, even if that experience is partially veiled from full comprehension in this state. How can love, both human love for each other and our striving for divine love, act as a pathway to experiencing profound beauty in ways that rational understanding alone might not?
Well, love breaks down the barriers of the ego, doesn't it? It allows for connection. Human love, at its best, lets us see the inner beauty in another person beyond their flaws.
True.
Spiritual love does this infinitely more. It purifies our vision and draws us closer to the source of all beauty. It's a state of being where the heart perceives truths and beauty that the mind alone cannot grasp. It requires surrender, vulnerability, openness, qualities that prepare the soul to receive impressions of the divine.
This intensity of relationship, particularly with the divine, also involves a necessary turning away from something else that can hinder our vision, the self, the ego.
Yes. This next passage from Baha'u'lláh in the Hidden Words, Arabic number 53, speaks directly to the transformation required in the spiritual relationship between the lover and the beloved.
It says,
O son of being, if thou lovest me, turn away from thyself, and if thou seekest my pleasure, regard not thine own, that thou mayest die in me, and I may eternally live in thee.
if thou lovest me, turn away from thyself. That's a clear, powerful, and maybe difficult instruction. It directly links love for God with selflessness.
It highlights the ego, the lower self, as a fundamental barrier to experiencing and reflecting divine love and beauty. If we are preoccupied with our own desires, our own comfort, our own perceived importance, thyself, thine own pleasure, we are fundamentally oriented inward, away from the divine.
So turning away from the self means consciously choosing to prioritize.
God's will, the needs of others, spiritual realities over the demands of the ego.
So ego, self-absorption, selfishness, these are presented as obstacles that obscure the divine light and beauty within us and prevent us from truly connecting with the source of all beauty.
Absolutely. The ego is like a thick cloud or maybe a dusty veil over that inner lamp we talked about earlier.
Okay.
It distorts our vision, keeps us focused on transient external things, and prevents the inherent nobility and beauty from shining through. Cultivating spiritual beauty requires breaking down the dominance of the self.
And that incredibly profound concluding phrase, that thou mayest die in me, and I may eternally live in thee. What does that mean?
This describes the ultimate aim of the spiritual path, a state of complete union and resonance with the divine. To die in me implies the annihilation of the self-centered ego, a complete surrender of one's will to God's will.
Not physical death.
No, spiritual transformation. And when the self is transcended, it allows the divine to eternally live in thee. In this state, the soul is so aligned with God, so purified of self, that it becomes a perfect vehicle, a clear mirror for the reflection of God's eternal presence and beauty.
This is the ultimate expression of reflecting divine beauty.
It seems so. Where the reflection is so pure, it's as if the divine dwells fully within the soul.
That's a transformative and challenging concept, that the path to true divine life and beauty within is through the death of the ego. What are practical ways we can begin to turn away from thyself in our daily lives? How do we even start?
I think it starts with small, conscious choices. Really small. It's choosing to listen actively to someone instead of just waiting for your turn to speak.
Yeah, that's a hard one sometimes.
It is offering help without expecting anything in return, practicing patience when we're provoked, forgiving someone who has wronged us, choosing to speak kindly even when we feel like criticizing.
And a continuous process.
Absolutely. Being mindful of when the ego is driving our actions and consciously redirecting our intentions towards love, service, and spiritual principles, it's chipped away at, bit by bit, through daily effort.
The writings also speak beautifully to the beauty found not just in the individual soul's journey or its relationship with God, but specifically when people gather together in a spiritual context.
Yes, the collective life of the community, when focused on the divine, is presented as a potent space for experiencing and manifesting beauty. This first passage about gatherings, from Abdu'l-Bahá in Selections, describes the spiritual effect of such unity.
Let's read it.
Okay. Whensoever a company of people shall gather in a meeting place, shall engage in glorifying God, and shall speak with one another of the mysteries of God, beyond any doubt the breathings of the Holy Spirit will blow gently over them, and each shall receive a share thereof.
The simple act of gathering, but with specific intentions, shall engage in glorifying God, and shall speak with one another of the mysteries of God.
Those activities define the purpose of the gathering. It's not just social interaction. It's creating a space consecrated to the remembrance and praise of the divine and to the exploration of spiritual truths. This collective focus elevates the gathering beyond the mundane.
And the result is promised beyond any doubt.
Mm-hmm.
The breathings of the Holy Spirit will blow gently over them.
The Holy Spirit, the essence of God's power and grace. Its breathings represent a tangible spiritual influence, doesn't it? A wave of peace, understanding, unity, divine confirmation that descends upon the gathering.
And this presence of the Holy Spirit is itself a manifestation of spiritual beauty.
Yes, a palpable sense of the sacred, a unity of hearts, a clarity of vision that is profoundly beautiful and uplifting.
And it's a shared experience. Each shall receive a share thereof.
This emphasizes that the spiritual bounty isn't limited to just one person or the speaker. It's distributed among everyone present who is open to receiving it. It creates a collective spiritual experience, a shared state of beautiful upliftment and connection.
The beauty isn't just something you observe, it's something you participate in and are nurtured by collectively.
Exactly.
It makes sense that when souls turn together towards the divine, something beautiful and powerful is generated in that space. Have you ever experienced that palpable sense of spiritual beauty or upliftment in gatherings like that?
Oh, absolutely. I think many people have. There are moments in devotional gatherings or deep conversations about spiritual principles where you can feel a distinct shift in the atmosphere.
Like what?
A sense of profound peace or clarity, or just a feeling of being connected to something much larger than yourselves. That feeling, that spiritual energy, feels undeniably beautiful and leaves a lasting impression.
Building on this, another passage further describes the nature and blessedness of such collective spiritual experiences.
Yes, this excerpt is also from Abdu'l-Bahá, again in Selections. It gives us the defining characteristics of a truly blessed and beautiful gathering.
It says,
Whatsoever gathering is arranged with the utmost love, and where those who attend are turning their faces toward the kingdom of God, and where the discourses of the teachings of God, and the effect of which is to cause those present to advance, that gathering is the Lord's, and that festive table hath come down from heaven.
This adds more depth to the previous one. The gathering must be arranged with the utmost love. That feels important.
Yes, the intention and spirit behind the gathering are crucial. It must be rooted in genuine love, love for the cause, love for humanity, love for God. This creates a welcoming, nurturing environment for the spirit.
And again, the focus of the attendees and the content, those who attend are turning their faces toward the kingdom of God and where the discourse is of the teachings of God.
This reinforces that the collective attention is directed towards spiritual realities, towards divine guidance. The conversation is centered on the transformative teachings. This shared spiritual orientation is key to unlocking the potential of the gathering.
And the impact is clearly stated, the effect of which is to cause those present to advance.
So a truly spiritual gathering isn't just static, it's dynamic and transformative. It inspires personal growth, deeper understanding, renewed commitment. It empowers individuals to move forward on their spiritual path.
This collective advancement, this shared movement towards spiritual maturity, is a powerful manifestation of beauty in action.
Yes, it is.
And the description of such a gathering is truly elevated. That gathering is the Lord's, and that festive table hath come down from heaven.
That imagery conveys immense blessing, sanctity, divine provision. To say it is the Lord's means it has divine approval. It's imbued with his presence and power.
And the festive table hath come down from heaven.
That's particularly rich, isn't it? A festive table implies abundance, joy, nourishment, celebration. But this isn't a table of physical food.
It's spiritual sustenance.
Exactly. Insights gained, inspiration received, unity felt, love shared. It describes a spiritual feast, a manifestation of divine generosity and beauty that nourishes the souls of all who partake.
So collective spiritual life, when approached with love, focused on divine realities and leading to growth, creates a space of profound beauty, blessing, and spiritual nourishment, a shared table of divine bounty. What elements do you feel are most crucial, based on these passages, to creating a truly spiritual and beautiful gathering in our own homes or communities?
Well, based on these passages, I'd say the most crucial elements are that sincere spirit of love and welcome, a clear focus on the divine purpose of the gathering, whether it's prayer, study, consultation, service, and an atmosphere that encourages everyone to contribute and feel uplifted.
Creating a space where the superficialities recede.
Yes, so the inherent beauty of each soul and the collective spirit can shine.
Okay. We've explored the eternal, divine source of beauty, seen how it's inherent within us, understood the pathways of intellect and spirit to perceive it, and appreciated how it manifests in relationships and community. Now, let's turn our attention to how we actively cultivate this inner beauty and deepen our connection to its source.
Right, because it requires conscious effort and spiritual practice. The path back to our radiant origin isn't passive. It involves active engagement with our inner life and with sacred reality.
And this next passage from Bahá'u'lláh, in Hidden Words, Persian number 19, uses evocative imagery to remind us of a primal, beautiful state of being and calls us to remember it.
Let's read it and just feel the imagery. It says, "O my friends, have ye forgotten that true and radiant morn, when in those hallowed and blessed surroundings you were all gathered in my presence, beneath the shade of the tree of life, which is planted in the all-glorious paradise?"
Have you forgotten that true and radiant morn? This question points to a shared original experience, doesn't it? A state of existence we might have lost touch with.
The imagery is incredibly rich and symbolic. True and radiant morn that evokes a time of purity, light, perfect beginning.
Hallowed and blessed surroundings being gathered in my presence, the tree of life, the all-glorious paradise.
These are all symbols of a state of being in complete harmony, closeness, communion with the divine, a state of perfect spiritual beauty and vitality.
And the question, have ye forgotten, implies that this wasn't some potential future state, but an original state, our origin point.
Exactly. It posits that our fundamental reality, the deepest truth of our being, is rooted in this experience of perfect spiritual beauty and closeness to God. The spiritual journey, then, isn't about building something entirely new from scratch,
But about remembering.
remembering that original, radiant state and striving to return to it. Or maybe striving to fully manifest it in our current reality. Our inherent beauty instilled at creation is connected to this origin in paradise and divine presence.
It suggests that cultivating beauty is largely a process of stripping away the layers of forgetfulness, spiritual distraction, material attachments that have obscured this original radiance and connection.
It's like clearing away debris from a wellspring that's always been there, isn't it? Allowing the pure, radiant water to flow freely again. The inherent beauty is present, but veiled by our immersion in the material world and our forgetfulness of our spiritual origin. The path is about uncovering and letting that inherent beauty shine.
What kind of practices or moments in your life help you reconnect with a sense of inner radiance or that more fundamental, peaceful, perhaps even primal state?
For me, it's often stepping away from the noise and complexity of daily tasks. Spending time in nature, especially in moments of profound natural beauty, a sunrise, a sunset, looking at the stars that can evoke a feeling of being connected to something larger, more radiant, more ancient than myself.
Yeah, nature can do that.
And deep focused prayer or meditation can also quiet the external world and allow a glimpse of that inner peacefulness and connection that feels like coming home to that radiant morn.
The path back to this original radiance, to actively cultivating this inner beauty, involves specific disciplines and practices, as you said.
Yes. This next passage from Abdu'l-Bahá, again in Selections, gives us concrete actions we can take to nurture that inner light and manifest spiritual beauty.
Okay, what are these essential steps?
He says, "It is incumbent upon you to ponder in your hearts and meditate upon his words, and humbly to call upon him, and to put away self in his heavenly cause. These are the things that will make of you signs of guidance unto all mankind, and brilliant stars shining down from the all-highest horizon, and towering trees in the Abba paradise."
So the actions are, ponder in your hearts and meditate upon his words, humbly to call upon him, and to put away self in his heavenly cause. These are presented as incumbent upon us, essential duties or practices.
These are the core methods for spiritual development, laid out clearly. Pondering in your hearts and meditating upon his words that involves a deep spiritual engagement with sacred texts and divine truth.
Not just reading them superficially.
No, it's not just intellectual study, but allowing the words to penetrate the heart and mind, reflecting on their meaning in a way that leads to insight and transformation. This process cultivates inner clarity and allows divine wisdom, a form of beauty, to take root within us.
Humbly to call upon him. That's prayer.
Yes, the act of communicating with God, which strengthens our connection to the source of all beauty and grace, drawing his assistance into our lives. And to put away self and his heavenly cause, that's the active practice of selflessness and dedication to serving God's purpose in the world.
It echoes that earlier point about turning away from self.
Exactly. It's crucial for removing the ego's veil over our inner radiance.
And how do these specific actions cultivate inner beauty? How do they connect?
By engaging in these practices, we actively purify our hearts and minds. Pondering and meditating align us with divine truth. Prayer strengthens our connection to the source of light. Putting away self removes the obstacles to that light shining through. They work together to polish the mirror of the soul,
Allowing that inherent divine beauty to be clearly reflected.
both within us and outwardly in our lives.
And the passage describes the transformative results using these beautiful metaphors, becoming signs of guidance unto all mankind, brilliant stars shining down, towering trees in the Abdu'l-Bahá paradise.
These are metaphors for spiritual maturity, influence, steadfastness. To become signs of guidance or brilliant stars means that our lives, our character, our actions become so imbued with the divine light and beauty we've cultivated that they serve to illuminate the path for others.
Our very being becomes a reflection of God's guidance.
Yes. And towering trees in the Abha paradise suggests deep spiritual roots, strong and fruitful growth, providing spiritual shelter and sustenance to others. These images all depict lives that have cultivated profound spiritual beauty, lives that are powerful and beneficial reflections of God's grace and purpose.
It shows that our spiritual growth, marked by these practices and leading to service and influence, is the ultimate manifestation of cultivating inner beauty. Which of these practices, pondering, meditating, calling upon God, putting away self, do you find yourself relying on most, or perhaps struggling with most, in your own journey?
Oh, I think putting away self is the constant, ongoing challenge for everyone, isn't it? The ego is always there, always finding new ways to assert itself.
Sure.
But the practice of pondering and meditating upon his words, especially in the sacred text, feels like a direct way to nourish that inner light. It helps reconnect with the truths that make the effort of selflessness feel meaningful and possible. It provides the perspective and inspiration needed for the other, often challenging aspects of the path.
Okay, we've really explored these various facets of beauty from the writings, its eternal divine source, its inherent presence within us as nobility and light, the pathways of intellect and spirit to understand and experience it, and how it manifests and is nurtured in the relationship, community, and through conscious practice. Let's try to synthesize these different threads now. What does this profound, multi-layered understanding of beauty mean for our lives right now?
Yeah, let's pull it together. Looking back at the passages we've discussed, a really rich and cohesive picture of beauty emerges, I think.
It feels much bigger than just aesthetics now.
Much bigger. It's fundamentally divine and eternal, the ultimate reality contrasted with the fleeting nature of mortal charm. That was passage 1.
Right.
Crucially, this divine beauty isn't distant. It's inherent in our very creation. It was revealed and engraved upon us by God out of love. That was the second passage. This establishes our inherent nobility, richness, and potential. The fourth passage reinforced that.
So true beauty is not something we need to strive to achieve externally, but something intrinsic to our nature, a divine spark within us.
Exactly. This true beauty is fundamentally spiritual and internal. It manifests as a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, remember passage 10. And it's powered by the divine light in me from passage 12. It's all about the state of our soul and character, not our outward appearance or possessions.
And accessing and understanding this beauty involves actively engaging both our intellectual and spiritual capacities.
Yes, the intellect is presented as a light of God, passages 3 and 11 essential for discovering the realities of the universe and God. While spiritual learning, from love's teacher, guides us to innermost truths and encourages us to seek out the secrets of heaven, that was passage 13, revealing deeper dimensions of divine beauty and grace.
Absolutely. And the experience of beauty isn't confined to the individual.
No, it's profoundly intertwined with relationship. Both the intense transformative relationship with God, symbolized by love as a veil, and the need to transcend the self, from passages 6 and 14.
And also relationship and community.
Right. The collective spiritual life within community, where gatherings imbued with love and focus on divine teachings become spaces for the Holy Spirit's presence, and a sharing of spiritual bounty, that festive table from heaven we read about in passages 5 and 15.
And finally, this deeper beauty isn't just a state of being. It's cultivated through conscious effort and practice.
That's key. It's about actively remembering our radiant divine origin, passage 8, and engaging in practices like pondering sacred words, calling upon God, and persistently putting away self, passage 9. These efforts lead to becoming manifestations of spiritual beauty and guidance in the world.
So if we distill these ideas and think about how we can apply this multifaceted understanding of beauty to our daily lives, based only on these passages, what are the key takeaways?
Well, several interconnected principles emerge, I think.
Okay, the first seems to be a fundamental shift in our gaze.
Yes. Consciously turning away from an excessive focus on transient physical beauty and material charm, and instead directing our attention towards seeking the eternal beauty of God in all things and cultivating it within ourselves. That comes straight from passage 1.
And this shift immediately impacts how we see ourselves and others.
It has to. We're called to recognize and honor the divine image and inherent beauty within every human being. Passages 2, 4, 12 all point to this. This understanding fosters self-compassion, dignity, and serves as a foundation for seeing and treating all people with respect, looking past superficial differences to the shared divine reality.
The importance of the mind means that seeking knowledge and using our intellect to understand the realities of the universe and God's mysteries is not just learning.
It's a spiritual path to perceiving beauty and truth and reality. Passages 3, 7, 11 really drive that home. It makes intellectual curiosity and rigor a form of worship, in a sense.
And this is coupled with the call to engage in spiritual learning, seeking inner truths and divine mysteries from passage 13, a lifelong process of nurturing the soul.
Right. Then, practically, cultivating inner purity and kindness from passage 10 is essential, because these virtues are the qualities that allow our inherent inner light and radiance to shine forth, making us beautiful from within in a way that truly endures.
And that challenging but essential practice of selflessness, consciously putting away the demands of the ego, turning away from self-centeredness, as passage 14 urges.
Crucial. It removes the veil that obscures the divine light within and strengthens our capacity to reflect God's beauty.
And recognizing the beauty and power of collective spiritual life. Actively participating in spiritual gatherings.
Striving to create spaces filled with love, where the focus is on divine teachings and prayer, knowing that the Holy Spirit is present and spiritual nourishment is received. That's from passages 5 and 15. It makes community engagement a means of collective spiritual flourishing and shared beauty.
Finally, this cultivation is sustained through consistent personal spiritual practice.
Yes. Making time for pondering and meditating on sacred words and humbly calling upon God in prayer, as passage 9 outlined. These are the methods that help us remember our true radiant nature, stay connected to the source, and empower us to become reflections of guidance and beauty for the world around us.
These passages collectively provide a profoundly different, much richer, and deeply spiritual understanding of beauty than the one our world often presents. It's quite transformative.
They consistently draw us inward and upward, don't they? Away from the temporary and superficial towards the eternal, the inherent divine spark, and the transformative journey of cultivating character and connection. They show that true beauty isn't something you simply look at, it's something you are, something you cultivate, and something you experience through connection with the divine and with others.
This has been a truly illuminating deep dive into a beautiful, in every sense of the word, and complex virtue.
It definitely gives us a lot to think about and maybe reconsider in our daily lives.
So here's a concluding thought for you, our listener, to carry with you as you go about your week. We've explored how cultivating inner beauty involves conscious effort. Things like putting away the self, seeking knowledge, engaging in spiritual practices.
And we acknowledge this isn't always easy work. It requires facing our limitations, our challenges.
It's a path that includes tests and difficulties, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Which leads to this final provocative thought. Consider that the struggles, the tests, the moments of difficulty and hardship we face in life, when approached with reliance on that inner divine light, that inherent nobility we talked about, and the strength gained from these spiritual practices, could actually be the very forces that refine and reveal the hidden beauty within us.
Interesting. So not just obstacles.
Right. Perhaps adversity isn't something that simply mars or diminishes our beauty, but something that, maybe like polishing a gem or strengthening metal in a forge, can purify the soul and allow that inherent radiance to shine even more brilliantly, making our cultivated beauty more resilient, more profound.
That's a powerful reframe of life's challenges, seeing them as potential beautifiers.
Something to think about. We invite you to ponder these passages on beauty this week. Reflect on that provocative thought, and consider how you might consciously cultivate the beauty of the true one in your own life, in your heart, and in your interactions with the world around you.
And please join us next time on Baha'i On Air, our devotional focus, as we take another deep dive into a fundamental virtue. Next time, we'll be exploring what the writings reveal about caring.
Until then, keep exploring, keep reflecting, and thank you for joining us for this deep dive.